Unless you've been living under a rock this past week, you would have seen what I am calling, and many are calling, an attempted coup by white supremacist terrorists. They stormed the Capitol building. Guys, picture this. This is what people are calling the temple of democracy, to which I disagree, but they're calling it that. This is the equivalent of people storming a parliament building. This is a government building. This is where laws are enacted. This is where laws are passed that govern domestic policy and foreign policy. And it was overrun like it was a nightclub where people trying to get in the nightclub in South or something. So the real question I'm asking, how the hell was this allowed to happen? Because we saw the images over summer. We saw the heavily militarized law enforcement. We saw tanks deployed in streets to quell protesters, to quell those who are fighting for justice. But yesterday, as we were recording on Thursday, we saw government buildings overrun, which begs the question, what were the orders yesterday? Because we know the orders, if it were BLM protesters, if it were people of color protesting, I can guarantee we would not have witnessed the same scenes. We saw people in the speaker's office. Guys, for context, the role of the speaker in the United States is if the president and the vice president are ever incapacitated, the speaker becomes the de facto leader of the country. Her office was overrun. People stole her mail, her post. So with me today to unpack this, I have my good friend Arqum Rashid, who is a resident scholar. He's an imam. I'll post his bio. He's also the director of the Riwak Institute, and he's a graduate of Delaware Law School. Bro, thanks for joining me. What the hell happened, man?
To be honest, I don't even know where to begin. Like the whole of yesterday was insane from beginning to the end. Every single
hmm
picture that's
The first
come
question I
out
have to
of
interrupt you with: Are you
sure, sure.
surprised it happened?
I mean, it was shocking to an extent, but I'm not surprised that they were able to get inside the Capitol building.
Really?
Yeah, mainly because I don't see it happening any other way. So I don't see this specific group storming into the Capitol and then being shot on sight. I don't see that scenario happening.
Mm,
So if that scenario were to take place, I would be shocked. If
okay.
when this outcome took place, yes, I'm surprised. Yes, I'm shocked, but at the same time, not to the extent of the other possibilities that could have happened.
Okay, let's unpack that then. Why are you not shocked that this group could overrun the capital like that?
Well, I mean, you tell me, do you see the police shooting at this group of white individuals storming into the Capitol, Trump supporters storming into the Capitol? A very specific mentality, a very specific group within the United States. If it were any other group, without a doubt, right, this protest, these what's going on would have turned out different. And then the specific group that's storming in, the types of comments they would have had about that protest would have been different as well.
We can definitely unpack that. But what I'm saying, let's take a step further. You as an American, you knowing what you know about the Capitol building, how heavily securitized is it normally? How secure is it normally?
Oh, very secure. I mean, anybody that even visits the Capitol building knows how many securities and checks you have to go through. It's probably the most secure building within the government, within the country. The White House, the Capitol Hill building, all of these buildings have levels of security. It's not just, you pass through security, you're good to go. These have levels of security. These have Secret Service members around them. These have Capitol Police around them. These have different organizations that are specifically put there to protect the Capitol building. Now,
So the
no
yeah.
way, there is no way that this took place without an order from the top to say, "Oh, okay, we're not gonna push back. We're not gonna do this." There's no way, right? If they wanted, they could have easily shot to kill on spot. They could have easily fired back. They could have easily, quote unquote. And again, I'm not saying those are better options, those are viable options. I'm just saying that's definitely a possibility, and that definitely, very likely, would have been the outcome if the group were. Imagine a bunch of brown Muslims in
Exactly.
traditional type of clothing doing that exact action. Do you think that it would not be shoot on sight?
Of
Right?
course
Do
it
you
would.
think that it wouldn't? Exactly. So there has to be an element of allowance from the security forces.
So then why would they allow it in your opinion or from your perspective? Why was that allowed to happen?
I mean, I don't know. I was allowed. It's like That's the whole question, right? That's what everybody's asking. Like, how was this allowed? And why is this level of hypocrisy being displayed? And it's not only being displayed, it's almost as if they are mocking the entire country and all of its systems and all of the structures and all of the different groups of people that this is my country. This is what I can do.
Okay,
This is the
exactly.
privilege that I have. This is the privilege that I can display, and there's nothing you can do about it. Like, I can go in
Literally.
and exactly, I can go in and sit on the speaker's chair, right? I can go inside offices, walk out with mail, and not be the news articles out there won't say looting going on. I can go inside and pick up these
The
monuments,
podium, bro. The
the
podium got
podium, exactly.
they took the
And
podium. They were sitting where the Speaker of the House or where the Vice President chairs votes. Yeah, when there's a tie in the Congress, the Vice President
yeah.
normally breaks a tie. They were sitting in that seat in the House, bro. That was like there's no other ways but to describe it as an attempted coup in my eyes.
I mean, coup, I feel like coup is a more powerful word, something slighter than a coup or a little lighter than a coup. Definitely, coup would have been there if there was, I feel like if there was elements of direct help from the military or even an entire police force or anything like this that were participating actively, I think we
Mhm.
can use coup. But coup, I feel like, is a lot more powerful to define the situation that took place, in all fairness.
What I mean by coup, then, I hear what you're saying. I hear what you're saying. That's why I said attempt to coup, because for me, the way I understand coup, I mean, we have to unpack the reasons why this happened. The reasons why this happened is because a lot of misinformation, first and foremost, about the election results. People are being hyped up to say there's been irregularities in the electoral process in America. Therefore, delivering Joe Biden a win is trying to subvert the process of democracy, which obviously we know it to be a lie. The protest, if you want to call it a protest, which I call it again, boy, if you want to call it a protest, not you, by the way, the royal you, people call it a protest. I don't know who goes to protest with explosive devices. I saw
Yeah.
pictures of people with zips, you know, zips that you use to
Yeah.
take hostages with.
Yep.
Like that wasn't a protest, bro. If you're trying to take hostage lawmakers and politicians, that's more than a protest. You're trying to take power. This is power grab.
I mean, I don't know what else purpose zip ties would have unless you're planning to take hostages
Take
and
hostages,
kid
exactly.
like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't like, who walks with zip ties to a protest? Like, out of all the protests I've ever been to, I've never, "Hey, let me grab a couple of zip ties just in case."
Exactly.
Like,
And then we saw
yeah.
people like there were petrol bombs found as well. So I mean, again, we know. Again, for me, if you might not want to call it a coup because there was no assistance from the military. I mean, again, there was no active assistance from the military. But what we can say
That we know of,
definitively,
that we know
yeah,
of.
that we know of, what we can say definitively, this was allowed to happen.
Yes.
This was allowed. There's
Yeah.
no way in God's earth the army, which is the country that has the most powerful army known to man in the history of man's existence, with more than 4,000 military bases across the world. There's no way their government building was just overrun like that without it being allowed.
Yeah, yeah. I 100% agree with that. And the easiest way to understand that, to be honest, like if you're having a hard time understanding how it happened, is just imagine any other group doing the same exact thing. Like, could you imagine Black Panther members sitting inside
Exactly.
on those chairs? You think that would have been allowed? You don't think there would be snipers there? You don't think it would have been handled within 5 minutes? Like,
Exactly.
even if they overran it, you don't think all of it would have turned out different? Like, you had
Exactly.
pictures or you had videos of these protesters walking down the halls of Capitol Hill taking selfies
With the
with the
police
police
with
members.
police with the
So
police.
yeah, so there's definitely an element of allowance that's there from the side of the police, from the side of security forces, from the side that, for whatever reason, did not deem them as a quote unquote enough of a threat to eliminate that threat. Because
Yeah.
if it were any other group, they would have been eliminated, right? They would have
Absolutely. I
been
mean, we
taken
saw
out.
scenes, people like with Secret Service barricading themselves in the chambers of law making decisions with like furniture. For me, I know I'm very quite passionate and tensions are high. I'm passionate and I'm so impassioned in my voice because I'm thinking to myself, I just know for a fact if it was BLM protesting, and bearing in mind, we're just off the back of a wave of BLM protesters protesting, aren't we? We're off the
Yeah.
back. We're still thinking the word name George Floyd is still in our minds. It still rings so, we still hear it a lot in our vernacular, in how we're speaking. And we saw the response of law enforcement. And my question is that Breonna Taylor was in her bed asleep. and she was shot. Freddie Gray shot 7 times in the back. All these people who are shot by law enforcement before whatever, we know it's institutionally racist, even though people try to say it's not. But then, just like what, 7 months later, 8 months later, we see the government building overrun by white people. If that doesn't tell you that there are two Americas, then I don't know what will. I
Yeah.
don't know what will. I don't know what can convince you otherwise, from in my opinion, from my perspective.
I
And
mean, there.
again, for me, the
Yeah.
mindset as well. Sorry, the mindset of the privilege as well, as you said. The mindset is that we feel so confident in doing this. We know there's going to be no repercussions. We know we can overrun the Capitol building and we won't get shot at.
The
Many
thing
people,
was,
yeah, carry
yeah.
on.
The thing was this, right? That mentality that you're tackling, that mentality that you're talking about, that can also be demonstrated through the fact that these people did not go in there with bulletproof vests, right? Some of
Exactly,
them didn't even have shirts on, knowing
exactly.
that they're not going to be
Some of
injured,
them
they're
were
not
dressed
going
as
to be harmed.
Chewbacca.
Exactly. So it goes on to show you another level of things, that it's not only the fact that they knew they were going to do this and that there's harm in the way, they didn't anticipate that level of harm. They didn't
Yes,
anticipate that level of reaction. And that's
exactly.
how they went in, right? Shirtless, some of them with, these costumes on or whatnot, knowing that as if they're going to a Halloween party, like they're not even trying to break
Literally,
into the Capitol building.
literally. So let's talk about the run up to this. Do you believe Trump stoked this? He caused this,
Oh, 100%. Think
and the
about this for a
Republicans are
moment,
backing
right?
him.
100%. And obviously, one thing is Trump himself. The second
Yeah,
level is the Republicans that verbally back Trump on this, and then the
yeah.
third level, I would say, are those that the Republicans specifically that stay silent because they're scared to lose their
Mm,
following, their backing. Because we've seen this over and over again throughout Trump's time. If a Republican turns against Trump, if they speak out against Trump, right? Trump would make a couple of statements and that's it. Their entire
yeah,
base is gone. Their entire
yeah,
following is gone. It's there's nothing better to describe it than being a mob or a cult, right?
yes,
That whatever Mr. Trump says, we're gonna do. If one moment we've trusted this Republican senator that we'd vote for him for the last 20 years, and he's been going in the halls of Congress for 20 years, voting on wars, voting against us, voting this and voting that, right? And we'll excuse all of that and we'll believe that he's fighting for democracy and he's fighting for against the left and he's fighting against this and he's fighting against that. But the moment that Trump says, "Oh, this guy's a traitor," all those 20 years of service from that person, again, it's perspectives, right, go out of the window, and you're like, that's it, he's big government, he's betraying us, he's what happened to the last 20 years of you voting these individuals in? What happened to the last
exactly,
20 years you saying that this actually represents the people, right? That these people
exactly.
have the intent and the care and the well-being of the average citizens in mind. So it's definitely a cult in a sense. It's definitely a mob in a sense that whatever Trump says goes. And I
Yeah.
believe that this act that took place yesterday, right, or these
Hmm.
acts that took place yesterday were directly, not indirectly, were directly incited by Trump. Because let me again, the best way to understand this entire situation is to place any other group in that. Now, let's
Yes.
say one of the famous activists from BLM, or
Yeah.
a Muslim preacher or a Muslim imam,
Yes.
said the same exact words that Trump said, and
Yeah.
then ended his speech after the whole situation with the same way that he said, "We love
We
you."
love you.
Like, how on earth do you think that would take place? And
Exactly.
do you think that person would not be arrested and charged for inciting violence, domestic terrorism, right?
Exactly.
Different levels of slapping charge after charge upon these individuals in comparison to what Trump did, and people are not connecting the dots. Like, people don't really care. People are
But
given a pass.
exactly, then it comes to the question: why are the Republicans and politicians so bloody spineless?
Yeah. I mean, that's what it is, right? They're just spineless. There's
I mean, the
nothing
thing
more
is,
to
it
it.
shows that
Like,
this was an assault on democracy, and even with that, people like Ted Cruz were still saying that, okay, we know what's happened, but we're still gonna, not accept the result, basically, from Arizona. I'm thinking, have you not had enough yet?
yeah. What I think it is, if Ted Cruz were to go out and speak out against Trump or
Yeah,
not contest the election or whatever it may be, if he does that, he loses his
base.
entire base, right? He's
Hmm.
based off of these cultish minded individuals that will go
Mhm.
with whatever Trump is saying. So if Trump is saying the election is stolen, this entire group is believing that the election is stolen, right? I
Yeah.
don't believe that the average person in this group actually thinks for themselves, let alone objectively, right?
Wow.
It's whatever Trump says. He's done the research, or probably he has lawyers. They figured it out. It's definitely stolen. That's the type of
Wow.
mentality you're finding. There's no second questioning that. Now imagine Ted Cruz does that. He loses his entire voting block. He's not going to be
Mm.
elected. So for him, this is a moment, and that's why he's spineless. For him, this is a moment to decide whether he's going to side with the law, what is right, what is fair, which is
Mhm.
rare
Yeah.
in many politicians, from the left or from the right, right? I don't think that's limited to any group. And if he does that, he's very likely he's not going to be elected again. Very likely. He's going to lose that base that he has. Now, if he
Mhm.
goes with Trump, it is what it is kind of thing, right? He gets
Mhm.
elected again, he does his thing. He's probably thinking a few years down, people are going to forget Trump, right? Remember, this is the guy that ran against Trump. This is the guy that talked about how vile Trump is during the
Yes.
campaigns, and
Yep.
how low of an individual Trump is. This is the guy that Trump made comments about his wife, right?
Yep.
So it's not like this guy loves Trump. It's all an act, right?
Of
It's all
course.
an act. It's all to fall in line with the mob leaders. What do you do? Do you take a stance against the mob leader? No,
Like
right?
Mitt
You just
Romney.
fall in line. Yeah, like Mitt Romney. And Mitt Romney didn't fall in line, just so people don't get confused here.
Yeah.
But people like Ted Cruz, right? You fall in line, and when you find your opportunity, when you find your moment, right, you take out the mob boss.
Literally, I mean, the thing is for me, what you're speaking to just reinforces the moral decay that exists in American politics. You
What
have
moral decay?
spinelessly
To say there's moral decay is to say that there was morality
there
at
was
one
ever
point.
morality in the first place. No, but for me, it just speaks to the kind of level of lack of morality, lack of any sense of principles that exist at the heart of the quote unquote best democracy in the world or the pillar of democracy. I mean, people are calling it a temple of democracy. I'm thinking the same temple of democracy that has voted on genocides, that has voted on wars, endless wars around the world. But anyway, so
Mhm.
let's unpack it a bit further. Let's unpack it a bit further
Sure,
now.
sure.
In talking about what we're coming off the back of, the protesters on BLM and things like that. What do you think this yesterday's actions sends out to people of color in America? What message
Well,
has been sent
yeah.
out?
The first thing is that it's a slap in the face, right? It's a
Hmm.
slap in the face to show you, like, there are levels of restraint that the government can hold against
Hmm.
individuals. Come on, like, you have somebody getting killed over $20
Yep.
versus whether that $20 is his or not. Let's say the person stole the $20, right?
Yes.
Versus stealing things from the Capitol Hill building
Yep.
versus breaking windows. These are federal felonies, right?
Yep.
Breaking into the Capitol Hill building. Like, these are not petty crimes. These are not misdemeanors. These are
Yep.
federal felonies that we're talking about, committed
Yep.
by a group of people who were not only allowed in, right, who were allowed to walk out,
Literally.
right, and not even arrested to an extent. So to the rest of America, to the minority communities out there, to the black community out there, this is a showing of something they already knew existed. This is
Hmm.
a display of what they knew was embedded into the culture, into the society of America, what people have been speaking on when people say white privilege, right?
Yes.
But what's even worse for me, the whole thing that took place yesterday is not the worst part about it. It's not the
Hmm.
fact that people were able to break in. It's not the fact that they were allowed to do this. It's not the fact that they were taking selfies with the police officers. It's not the fact that there were shots fired inside the Capitol Hill building. It's not the fact that there was armed individuals walking in. It's not the fact that nobody took those armed individuals out. It's not the fact that they walked in with zip ties with whatever intention. It's not the fact that they were allowed to walk out. It's the fact that after this and while this was going on, there's an entire group, right? There's an entire population of Americans that are defending these actions as
Wow.
patriotic, that are speaking about, I did not see any terrorism, rather, I saw patriots, that are speaking as if there's a differentiation between these two, as this group is a group of patriots, whereas BLM were a group of looters, right?
Hmm.
That is what is shocking to me, right?
The
That level
hypocrisy.
of
It's
stupidity,
the
that level of
hypocrisy.
hypocrisy, right? It's absolutely, there's no words to describe it, right? And I'm sure
I mean,
everybody's come
it's
across
like
this.
exactly. It's like James Baldwin said. James Baldwin said when a black person says, "Give me liberty or give me death," he is lauded as a terrorist, as someone who's full of hate. But when a white person, a white man says the exact same thing, he's a patriot. He's a hero. And that's what we're
Yeah,
seeing today. James Baldwin said this, how many decades ago, and it still rings true in 2021.
yep, and
One
that,
man's
that
freedom fighter, another man's terrorist. Literally.
that's exactly what it is. And there's the level of mob like mentality, of stupidity that is there, that is present in the people that are defending this is absolutely shocking. Right?
Hmm.
It's just amazing. Like, how can you be the same individuals that said 3 months ago, hey, let's not do any looting, let's not do any this, let's not do any that. Hey, breaking property, that's not cool. Hey, breaking federal government. Did you see that Trump tweet that was there as well in respect to this a couple of months ago,
Yes.
where he
Yep.
said if you break the federal courthouses or something along these lines, right, there will be action against you, right?
Yep.
What happened? Isn't this federal property, if I'm not mistaken?
Exactly.
Right? I'm
Let's
pretty
compare
sure.
Charlottesville, very fine people on both sides talking about neo Nazis. Very fine people on both sides. That's what Trump said, talking about neo Nazis. Yeah. Or, we've heard the language Trump has used about when the looting starts, the shooting starts.
Shooting starts.
We've heard how Trump has demonized people of color, has demonized black people throughout his presidency. I'm sorry, but for me, if you still support Trump, I don't give a damn what you say about economic anxiety, which is just a cover up for white supremacy anyway. People do not want to let go of dominance. That's all it is. That's what it's about. Because if you can still support a man has been so racist outwardly, has propped up certain groups, he has emboldened bolstered a group of people in America that feel so powerful that they can just storm the Capitol building. And how does he end it with? We love you. That is
Yeah, go
America.
home. Good night. Let me tuck you into bed.
And let me
Like,
tuck into bed. Just go home. Sorry, I'm sorry for your inconvenience, but we got to get things under control right now.
I mean, at that level, I wouldn't be surprised if he came out handing out band-aids and medical raps like,
And
"Oh,
just
oh, you got
compare,
hurt? You got hurt while you were breaking into the Capitol Hill building?"
just compare when he wanted to take his photo up of the Bible outside the church, how he cleared people out peacefully protesting.
Yeah, it's in,
But
there's
you know,
nothing to
it says to me,
describe. Yeah,
it says to me one thing though.
sure.
The police have it in them to exercise restraint. They
That's
know
true.
how to do it. So my question is then, can you absolutely, and excuse my language, but can you reform that shit, bro? Can you reform that?
Yeah. There's so going back to this, right? Exactly on the point that you're talking about. This is a wider discussion than just what happened yesterday. This
Mhm,
because it shows us that the police have the ability to restrain themselves.
mhm,
But at the same time, to me, this shows one thing. This shows that there's a certain group of people that the police are not fearing their lives from, are not scared of,
mm,
right?
mhm.
Because the excuse that we constantly hear on repeat is that the officer was fearful of their life,
Yeah.
or
Unconscious
the
bias.
officer was scared, right? Or the officer was, is a big black man, so it was scary for the officer in that moment, and you don't know in that moment how it blah blah blah, all that stuff, right? And I'm not taking away from every single situation that takes place, right? Because
Of
every
course.
case is on a case to case basis, but there's a level of fear that's present subconsciously or consciously, right?
Mhm,
When it comes to certain groups of people, right? And to name a few, the BLM movement, Black Lives
yep,
Matter, African Americans all around the country, in almost every city, in almost
mhm,
every even suburb, because we've seen throughout last summer as well what took place
yep,
with
yep,
Ahmed Aubrey, who was just jogging, right?
exactly.
So there's a level of fear that's present that is not present when these groups that are completely armed, like I would be scared if I was the officer, right?
Exactly.
That are completely armed, militia style, right?
Yep.
And then some of them are even like I'm more scared of the person with no shirt, bunch of crazy tattoos, these costumes on. Like that scares me more. Like you're definitely up to something. Like I'm not
Exactly.
and they're not scared, right? They're able to use restraint, they're able to just be casual and calm. I don't see them having their, especially remember that one scene when the guy was taking selfies, there was no guns drawn
It's
by any of
drawn.
the
Exactly.
officers. They were calm,
Exactly.
they were in their holster. Where's the fear, right? You're talking about people who are there for quote unquote, in their own words, revolution, as
Yep.
patriots, to take back America, to take back the
Yep.
government, to save the government, right? That's their intent. And they made it clear. right? It's not
Exactly.
like it's a hidden agenda. It's not like, hey, let's look at their mission statement online. Right?
Exactly.
They've made these things very clear why they're there. Look at the people who are defending these people online. Same exact reasoning,
And
right? So
I
it's
wanna I
clear.
wanna put your comment. Can you situate your comments for me amongst those people who said Colin Kaepernick's protests were unpatriotic?
To say that what Kaepernick did was unpatriotic in the events of yesterday, and to not
Yeah.
even blink an eye or speak out about yesterday, right,
Mhm.
is absolutely mind-boggling. I can't even describe the level of hypocrisy that's present in some people. That action is unpatriotic. It's disrespecting America. It's
Yeah.
disrespecting those that served. It's disrespecting our country. It's disrespecting absolutely ridiculous, right? And then you go on and do this and say, "Hey, freedom of speech, freedom of this, freedom of that." But
You
what
heard people
happens to those
saying, "This is our house. This is
yeah,
our building." For me,
I mean,
white
that's
privilege and supremacy is one hell of a drug anyway. Let's talk about what I find solace in, and maybe you can speak to this as well.
sure.
I think my main takeaway of from yesterday is whenever anyone pipes up about BLM or how to protest or how to be a true patriot, will now have endless reels of footage to show them of yesterday and say, okay, no one can talk about anti-BLM protests because as we saw some scenes out of these protests were devastating in terms of targeting and the looting, which we don't condone. However, this is minuscule. Those actions were minuscule in comparison to what happened yesterday, in my eyes.
Yeah. So I have 2 things on that.
Yeah.
The first is that exactly what you're saying is probably the most beneficial thing from yesterday. That
Yeah.
it is clear-cut evidence, right? That can later on be used in any conversation when people are protesting, when people are struggling, when people are or even being unjustly scrutinized and
Mhm.
taken advantage of by security forces, police,
Mhm.
military, and on and on. So that this conversation can be brought up. That look, why was your attitude different here? Do you not see,
Yeah.
a hypocrisy in your own thoughts, in your own ideology, in your own actions? The
Mhm.
the the second part of it is the worst part of it. You can say is that the people that supported yesterday's ideology, they have a very binary way of thinking, right?
Mhm.
If the people that are going out and committing these federal felonies, these acts of terrorism, let's call it what it is, right? Taking quote unquote the government, taking back America, all that stuff, right? If the people that are
Mhm.
going and committing that are white Americans, right, with Southern flags, right, Confederate
Yes.
flags, then
Confederate flag. That's again, we got to unpack that as well. But carry on.
yeah, then the what we turn to is justification. The
Mhm.
second option is if the people that are rioting or that are protesting or that are speaking out or that are whatever on and on are black or minorities,
Yeah.
right? Then find the reason why they're doing that. That's you shouldn't do that. It's looting, you're hurting innocent people, you're doing this, you're hurting innocent property. Oh, let's find out the reasons why this person was shot by the police. Right?
Mhm.
Let's not speak so early, right? Let's
Mhm.
not speak so early. Let's find out the reason. So their mind only works in these two ways, right? Either
Yes.
justify the actions or right deem it wrong, depending on the race of the person, depending
Wow.
on the group of the people that are doing that. Because I can guarantee you, again, we keep coming back to this point because it's so mind-boggling that if
Yeah.
yesterday it was BLM that did that,
Yeah.
right? These same people that are defending these actions. Imagine if BLM stormed in that house and said, or Capitol Hill and said, "We're taking back America."
Yeah.
Or if
Can you imagine?
forget that if Native Americans did it, right? Because that
Exactly.
statement that statement could
It's true for
be
them.
exactly right. If Native Americans stormed in and said, "We're taking back America. We're taking back our country, our lands, our this, our
Yep.
that, whatever it may be," right? If they stormed in and said that, what do you think these people would have reacted? Hey, hey, hey! We should respect the law. Hey, hey, there's other ways to go about it. You don't really need to break federal property. I was cool with your ideas until you started breaking federal property, until you started breaking into the thing, until you started putting fear in the hearts of the men in Congress, women out, until
I
shots were
think
fired. Like,
exactly. We have to call it what it is. I'm going to call it what it is anyway. You have to understand the global pervasive narrative of white supremacy, which exists, humanizes some people and dehumanizes some people. It relegates certain human beings to subhuman status. That's what it's about. Because again, when we see young black men who are unarmed and who are killed, yeah, we see let's just wait and see. Let's wait for the law. Let's wait for the electoral. Sorry, the judiciary process to be enacted or to be played out.
Exactly.
Let's wait. Let's
Exactly.
wait for the grand jury. Yes, it's bad. You see all these pundits on Fox News, the Kellyanne Conways, and all these other people will say things like, "Let's just wait until what
We get
the
all of the
verdict's going to be.
information.
Get all the information." So hang on a minute. You can say that, but then a minute ago, when we saw people who, again, let's say you even believe that the election was stolen from you, isn't your recourse to justice taking it through the courts?
Yeah.
Do you not have to wait then for the verdict from the courts? But no, when it's your issue, you can take it into your own hands and become vigilante groups.
Yep.
Again,
The thing is, you and I understand that, and I'm sure many of the people that are listening to this podcast understand
yeah,
that. The problem is these people don't understand that. They don't see
yeah,
that differentiation that they're making. They don't see the hypocrisy that's being implemented through their actions. They just can't see it. They always have, and you'll see this the next coming days as well. And I'm sure anybody listening to this will see this in the next coming days as well, especially if you're on social media. You'll see these people defending the actions of what took place. Like, it's ridiculous. To the level of hypocrisy from these people is ridiculous. Like, there's nothing else describing it except that it's just blind following of a mob leader, of a leader that's inciting violence, domestic terrorism, and there's
yeah.
nothing to it.
Absolutely. And I finally just want to finish on this. I read a stat and I want to get you to speak on it. Again, moving forward, I think there needs to be. I don't even know if you can reform some of this stuff. I don't know. I'm a bit of a skeptic, but I saw a stat that says 3% of American population own 80% of the military-styled weapons, and usually right wing. I mean, I don't know. Speak to that for me. 'Cause I know Americans, you lot love your guns.
um, so yeah. So obviously, usually people, again, this is not narrowly defining it because you'll have gun owners across the board, right?
Of
Left
course.
wing, right wing, you'll have gun owners across the board. But without a doubt, a lot of the more right wing people, a lot of the people that tend to vote Republican, more likely to be gun owners and more likely to have assault style weapons. That's without a doubt. To a certain extent, it's normalized in certain areas. Like, I know
Okay.
it's weird for people who are not from the US to see it for the first time. Like, if you go to certain areas in the South or even in
Yeah.
Delaware, right? So I'm from Delaware. If you go, sometimes you'll see people walking around with a gun. Like, they're not an officer,
Wow.
they're not nothing. Like, they just have a gun strapped to their side, like to their
Wow.
waist, right? They're nothing to do with security, nothing to do with police. It's just normal, right? Now, certain areas you won't see it. Like, usually in larger cities, that's not something that you'll see out in the open.
Yeah.
Areas on the East Coast, on the West Coast, depending on what area you're in, you usually won't see that. But more rural areas, southern states, that's very common for people to have guns, own guns. Owning guns is extremely common. It's embedded in the American culture to a very extreme level, you can say, because they
Mhm.
would see some of these semi-automatics as the right to bear arms. And
Wow.
again, there's different interpretations of what the right to bear arms exactly refers to.
Yeah.
There's always been a difference of agreement between constitutional scholars in terms of what that means. Does it mean
Okay.
that we need to have a military? Does it mean that each individual can arm themselves? Does it mean that includes assault rifles? Is that,
Start weapons.
semi-automatics, automatics, or whatnot? Now, that being said, none of that compares. None of the weapons that this minority group of Americans own combined together compares to the weaponry that's present within the military. Like,
Oh,
it
of
doesn't
course.
compare.
Of
Like,
course.
it's
I want to
it,
ask you then, finally, when Joe Biden says this is not who we are, what do you think of that?
he's lying, bro.
Thank you. Good. Good. I'm thinking to
Okay.
myself, this is not who we are. I'm sorry. You taught the world a lot about violence. Let's be
Yeah.
honest.
If he says this is not who we are, right? For certain people, yeah, that's not who we are. Like, you won't catch minorities storming into the Capitol building. That's not who they are.
Exactly.
You won't. But the group that he's referring to and the group that he's trying to include, that's precisely who they are. Like, there's
Exactly.
no, why else are they buying weapons for and stocking them up, right? They believe
Exactly.
that if it comes down to it, we need to take America back. We need to take the
And
government back.
in a weird way, in a very, I don't know, in an alternate universe, at least they have heart. They have heart for what they believe in, and
Yeah.
I can't say I respect it, but I give it where it's due because honestly, like a lot of people don't have heart. of what they believe in, and these people do.
Let me differentiate something though, because yes, they do have heart for what they believe in, but they don't face the same resistance.
True.
Like in a sense, I'm talking about in a sense from the government or security forces.
Yeah.
Like for example, you can take an example of, let's say, an African American kid grew up like an average
Yeah.
person, right? And now he has heart in what he believes in, but
Yeah.
he's not going to be able to take the same level of actions that these people
That's
did
true. That's
because
true.
of the repercussions that will come after. So
That's true.
yes, they have heart in what they believe in, but they also know that they can walk inside of the Capitol building storming in without any bulletproof vests, knowing that majority of them will not get hurt. There's no pepper spray right in their eyes. There's no this, there's no that, right? They know that that's going to take place. Whereas this African American individual that we're using in this hypothetical example, if they were to do the same, right, they will lose their life. They
Yeah.
will lose
Yeah.
their loved ones. They will
Mm,
see their brothers and sisters fall for the
hmm.
cause. So I don't think it's a fair comparison to say that they have a
Agree with you
level of
there.
heart.
I agree with you
They have a level of heart because there's also no level of fear or a
there. I agree.
diminished level.
I absolutely agree with you there. And I'm going to say, just a final takeout is there are absolutely two Americas, one that privileges certain people and one that relegates another group of people to subhuman. You are listening to the Malcolm Effect with Mamadou. Please like, comment, subscribe, be that on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or YouTube. And I will leave Imam Arkham, the lawyer, the Esquire's bio and socials in the description of this episode. Until next time, take care, guys.